Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B Unplugged. I'm Dan Bassett, the host and founder of Brandtail, and today I'm joined by Jules Robertson from Tally Workplace. Hi, Jules.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Bit cold today, but I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, winter is certainly setting in, isn't it? I mean, Christmas before we know it. Everyone
I
will be
know.
out of the office and enjoying mince pies and things. Before we dive into the episode, I thought today what we're going to cover is a little bit about you, a little bit about Tally, and not to give away too many secrets, but your business is in the sort of workplace space and office management. So dive a little bit into sort of the trends of that sector, and just share your story of the world. So without further ado, if you
Sounds
would like
great.
to introduce yourself.
Yeah, as I say, my name is Jules. I am one of two co-founders of Tally Workspace. And apparently today LinkedIn tells me it's my 4-year anniversary there. So
Congratulations.
we must have started around four years ago. But yeah, Tally Workspace we started 4 years ago, right in the middle of COVID. Essentially, we specialize in helping startup and scale up brands with Workspace. We have a few different products, but essentially we can help you with anything from an ad hoc meeting room, hot desk, event space, and then we do right up to full-time offices like that you want branded for your company that might have 100, 200 people and everything in between. So we really just try and cater for startups and scale up brands like as they move up or sometimes sadly move down their workspace requirements of what they need. Yeah.
So what's the problem that you're solving then? Because I think a lot of businesses during sort of like COVID, especially that was started, I guess, 4 years ago when you sort of did as well. And I was part of a startup that started around that time as well. So a lot of businesses in that period were like, well, that's just we don't need an office because well, we're
Yeah.
working from them anyway. And then they sort of kept to that. Is that a trend that you're seeing, or are you seeing sort of more businesses going back into the office space now?
Yeah, so kind of the reason that we started Tally was myself and Laura, we were both working for other kind of medium sized scale ups, I would say, like 100, 200 people. And both our companies had huge offices. They were paying tens of £1,000s a month for, I think I worked out mine was paying like £2 million a year for our office. Obviously, no one could go into those offices, but at the same time, like people couldn't really work. Like a lot of people could work from home, but for instance, me and my housemate were like on this teeny desk in our kitchen that lots of people couldn't. So the original idea was kind of like that we came across it because we were like, there will be an opportunity because we essentially were like, the way that people use workspace is going to change. The type of workspace they want is going to change. The locations they want is going to change. And what companies like are willing to invest in workspace is also going to change. If you see what I mean, there's like going to be a disconnect between employees and employers. So we went about and interviewed 1,000 different companies and we're like, what do you think you might do? And like no one really knew. So we kind of knew there was an opportunity. Then our first product was essentially we onboarded, I think at the time it was like maybe a few hundred local workspaces where companies would pay for their employees to access local workspaces so they could use it like instead of an office. So it was more like ad hoc use of workspaces. So people who couldn't work from home could go work there. That product still exists, so people can go on and book, as I say, like ad hoc meeting rooms, hot desks, etc. But we find that kind of like over time, as people were coming out of COVID, they actually were meeting with their own colleagues in more centralized locations. They were booking like collaboration rooms, meeting rooms. And then as they did that more frequently, they were asking us, actually, we want a small office. And then obviously over time, like now the move is back to kind of like a lot of companies obviously have full-time offices now, but a lot of companies that we work with still do like a hybrid arrangement where they might use us. They might have a small central office, but they still give maybe their remote employees or their employees who have like more of a hybrid contract access to like more on-demand spaces if they need it.
Mhm. Okay. So what's the sort of brand concept then? What message do you go out to the market with? That sounds like it's a multi-layered solution that obviously works for lots of different reasons. So what's the sort of brand, the top level message that you speak to people about?
Yeah, I think because our backgrounds were in startups, like the brand, I guess at the beginning of the company, and I think still now, like really resonates with like just with Laura and I as individuals, which is like our background startups. We know it's hard. We know costs are tight. We just want to be a helpful hand that can be as transparent as possible. We can give you all the options, help you assess what's right, and you do just need flexibility. So I think the brand really relates to that. It's like we will have all the technology, we will have all the information, we will like but we will be hands on and consultative with you to find the right solution, and you'll be able to like change and flex that as you grow.
Yeah, and I think that's in my own experience. I guess relatively limited as an entrepreneur is that you wear a lot of different hats all of the time, and and you go from doing your bookkeeping one day to selling the next day, and then trying to find an office space or something like that. It's a lot to deal with. So having somebody, I suppose, that's there, that's like a a trusted partner that can be like, actually, you could consider this or whatever, is
Yeah,
really really helpful.
as much as I love workspace and like I go around London with my friends and I'm like, that's this office, like this is so interesting. It's like I appreciate that that is like the last thing on people's list sometimes. And it's like no one's job, like it's an
Mm.
extra thing. You really want to get back to doing your business. So it's like if we can just help you as quickly as possible, find the best solution for your team. And then you're able to like change that as you want. And that's obviously the best thing for your business.
Yeah. So it's not just the cool kids that want to go and sit in Soho House all day that you cater for. It's everybody.
Yeah, definitely. It is funny, like you have seen the trends. I mean, like long gone is the days where you can just like get an office, like one person, one desk for every person. It's in a bit of a hole, it's underground. Like
Yeah.
the like bouginess of offices is like off the scale at the moment in terms of like what employees and employers are demanding. But yeah, we like I think everyone would love to sit in Soho House, and offices are becoming like Soho House themselves. So that is the
Yeah.
trend.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's been the thing that like lots of like you used to see it all the time with like big VC backed companies where they'd spend a fortune on like making their offices really attractive for people, and it's almost like a like they wanted like an Instagrammable office,
Yeah.
so that it was like, oh, we're cool, come and work for us. Like I remember like Social Chain, they got the
Oh
agency
yeah.
that Stephen Bartlett founded had they were famous because they had a slide in their office.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. There's an office which is in Clerkenwell, which had a slide through it. Like it was like probably about 40 desks. It had like 20 desks on each floor and had a slide, and no one could sell it for love or money. It was on the market for like 2 years. So it's
Yeah.
I think it's moved away from like gimmicky to like
Mm,
luxury because people want towel services, they want saunas, everyone wants a gym in the office, they want like barista coffee. Like it's yeah, I would say the move has been away from I think there was a study actually by Kit, which is one of our partners, which was like Gen Z, like 37% of them want an Instagrammable office, but I think they want like luxury Instagrammable rather
yeah.
than like gimmicky Instagrammable. Like people literally, when they're asking for their office requirements, like, I don't want a ping pong table, I don't want free beer, I don't want this stuff. Like there's kind of
Yeah.
like a backlash against like fun stuff and more of like a lean into like luxury hospitality led. And a lot of the actual current providers, the ones that are growing a lot, like Fora and Tog, like well, Tog and Fora, they merged now. Fora, they actually were started by people like within the hospitality industry who were like luxury hoteliers. So you
Mm.
kind of like see people within that world moving into the office world because there's such a blend.
That's really interesting. I've not come across that concept. I still see the offices that I still see are still the stupid startup ping pong offices. So talk
Really,
about
yeah.
some of those bougie concepts. What's going on in that space?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I mean, gyms is a huge one. I think the price of gyms, specifically in London, has risen a lot. So a lot of employees are wanting to have that from their employers. So that's a huge one. Towel services is a huge one. So like if you cycle in, you've got like fresh towels and like ironing services. Really nice like coffee, obviously like natural light. Everyone wants like second screens, obviously.
Mm.
And it's just like I guess people have really invested in their home office. They need it to be better than that to come in a way. So
Yeah.
and obviously like the hybrid setup of having all the technology that's right for like people when they're working like cross remote and people in the office. So yeah, I think there definitely is like a trend for people to downsize. Well, it has been downsized since
Mm.
COVID, but yeah, they're probably not spending less money. They're probably spending as much money, but the spaces themselves are nicer.
Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. I know I worked with for a little while the guy who founded a company called Refit.
Oh yeah,
He might know it's called Stefan, and he so it's like really boutique gyms inside office spaces,
nice. Yeah,
and they look incredible. They look like I'm for myself. I'm a member of the David Lloyd gym, and I think, okay, that's
yeah,
really bougie. But then you go and look at some of those gyms, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like that's
yeah,
insane. It's so like it's so over the top for an office. What you expect of an office gym.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, I guess like if people are working in central London or central Manchester or something like that, and they, gyms are expensive, so why not provide that for people
yeah.
and get people want to go back into the office?
Yeah, I think in a boring business sense as well, there's like a tax in the tax benefit for companies to
Mm.
provide a gym in the office rather than giving gym subscriptions or like allowances. So a lot of companies are looking to be like, if I get an office, like essentially the perks of the office will negate like and cannibalize perks I'm giving elsewhere. So they'll be like, I can get rid of gym memberships, I can get rid of like other perks that I might have given because they're all provided by the office.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. And I mean, it's one of the things that I wanted to come onto, which was the sort of, I guess, the disconnect between people that are fully office, fully remote, or hybrid. And I
Yeah.
suppose that makes sense if your concept is you want people in an office space because it makes sense for your business to be more collaborative and have that sort of culture, and that's what you want. Then you sort of need to provide something that makes people want to be into that environment, I suppose, to get out
Yeah,
of the sort of COVIDness, if you like, of being working from home all the time, working in your pajamas.
Yeah, definitely. I guess most companies that we deal with in the startup scale up space, they do have mandated days now, whether that's like
Mm.
X number of days in the office or you need to come on these specific days. So most people are like, I don't know if you find that, but most people that we deal with in the startup scale up space, they do have to come in anyway. So like whatever the office was like, they would have to be there anyway. But you just find that even the people who are choosing the offices or choosing the workspace, the founders themselves, might be operations people, like they themselves want to go and work in nice spaces, so they
Yeah.
will choose those as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the last company that I worked for before I started Brandtail was IMP Software, was a fully remote business.
Yeah,
So they started during COVID or just before COVID, and then as they were scaling, it was all the way through COVID, so it made no sense to get an office. And then by the time they were sort of COVID was over, end of 2021. They were sort of 30, 40 people at that point all across the country. So it was like, well, it makes no
yeah,
sense for us to get an office space or a central location as such because we're
definitely.
everywhere, we're distributed. So that's
Yeah,
just, so they had like a small space, but nobody had to use it. So everybody just stayed remote. And it worked for them. But I think a lot of companies are, especially in the creative space, are going back the other way, are going more into they want to be part of a culture and a community. I'm seeing a lot of agencies down here in the southwest that are moving into co-working spaces and taking sort of large offices in co-working spaces because they want
yeah,
to be part of a larger community.
definitely.
And I think that's a really nice concept.
Yeah, I have that. I'm doing a lot of interviewing at the moment for positions at Tally, and like people are demanding, like, how many days do you go in? And it's like, because they want more days. Had an interview yesterday for someone who works 5 days in an office.
Mm.
And I was like, we only work 2 days in the office. Like, you can come in every day if you want, but mandatory is like Mondays and Thursdays. And
Mm.
they were like, oh, might take a bit of getting used to. Like, that was like one of the main problems. But
Mm.
I guess the trend that we see, I think, is what is actually really helpful for employees is obviously since COVID, there's been like a lot of change within companies. Like they might have been remote, then it was like you have to come in one day, then it was like two, then it was three, then they went back to being a bit more hybrid. Whereas like what we're really seeing now is like companies themselves be like, this is right for my business, like this is how many days I want. And I think it's easier for employees to choose employers and know that those hybrid kind of mandates and return to the office mandates aren't going to change. I think they have settled. So I think they're very different within different industries and very different within different size of companies, how many days you need to go in or where your office is or what the setup is. But I do feel like within the individual companies, they've really steadied out. Like companies are willing to be like, this is my policy and it will stay like
Yeah.
this.
I agree. I think there was that whole thing sort of coming out of COVID of what do we do now? But actually, I think the right thing to do is whatever's right for you. But you just have to
Exactly.
like don't sit on the fence about it. Just be
Yeah.
like, this is how the company we want. We want to be 3 days in the office because we're about collaboration and community and making connections with people. When if that's what you want, then go for it. But equally, if you want to be remote, then go all in with it and
Yeah.
make it sort of purpose driven.
Definitely. And I think remote is so good for so many companies. Like it is an amazing solution. Like even though I deal with workspace in general, like I'm not like, oh, we all need to be in the office. I love offices. Like it is whatever is right for your company. And that is like really different. Like and it can change as your company grows. But I think it's much easier for your employees if you have like a policy that you stick with for at least a certain amount of time and you're really upfront about that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, going back to sort of, I guess, benefits and things. I saw a story ages ago. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but Google they were providing the things that you expect of like a Silicon Valley company, which was like
Yeah.
free food and stuff. But then they were also providing like childcare and laundry services and
Yeah.
like everything. And it was like, Jesus Christ, that's insane. Like they're looking at the concept of getting people into work and thinking, what pain can we take away from people so they
Yeah.
can just come in and do the best work possible. And obviously they're able to do that because they've got billions and billions to play with. But
Yeah.
it's an
It's funny,
interesting.
isn't it? 'Cause I feel like there was a time where that was thought of as like they're trying to cheat them into staying in the office. Like,
Yeah.
if you pay for your dinner or like pay for a taxi home or pay for this stuff.
Mm.
Whereas like I don't feel like it's thought of like that anymore. Like it is just like the level of like perks in the office has risen across the board. So like those Silicon Valley ones providing the next level up isn't seen as like a sneaky way to keep you in the office anymore.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your outlook, doesn't it? I think there are people that view that as like, well, these people are just doing no work because they're just sat around drinking coffee and playing ping pong all day or whatever.
Mhm.
But I mean, look at their results. They specifically are the biggest sort of search provider in the world.
Yeah,
Facebook, who have a similar style, one of the biggest providers of social platforms in the world, so it clearly works for them, um,
definitely.
and they wouldn't
And I
do it
guess
for
it's
nothing.
like it's all about like employer branding is, well, obviously you work in brand, but like employer
Mm.
branding is so huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like the workplace and workplace setup and your office has become like really key in that. Like people will really take what your office and workspace environment like as your brand, if you see what I mean.
Mm.
So like companies are being more purposeful about it. So like a huge part of Google's brand always has been their office, hasn't it? So that's like
100%.
very key.
Yeah, it's your home from home if you like, isn't it? You spend a third of your time in work, so it should be somewhere that you enjoy to be, I suppose.
Yeah, we did like an office that we'd been doing it for like a year or two and actually just went live. Like they just moved in a few weeks ago, and it's like a pet food company, and the whole thing is about pets. Like to be able to bring their pets into the office, like everything is about that. If you see what I mean, and it
Mm.
is really amazing. Like you wouldn't be able to work for that company if your mission wasn't to support pets, if you see what
Yeah,
I mean. So it is incredible how they've managed to provide like a really nice place for humans and for animals at the same time. And like the way some of these designs, like you can't imagine, like people, the workspace design world has really kind of flourished.
yeah. I mean, that sounds incredible. I imagine if I took my 2-year-old cockapoo into that office, but it'd probably be pretty chaos because
Yeah, amazing. They have like feeding areas, they have like Instagram areas for the pets, they've got kind of like play areas. Like it is really incredible. It's like a fun day out for them.
that's brilliant. They probably don't want to go home at the end of the day. They probably just want
Yeah,
to stay there.
exactly.
So I mean, one of the big questions I always ask entrepreneurs is about how you stay aligned to your audience. I think there's lots going on in your space. How do you
Yeah.
make sure that you stay grounded as a CEO, co-founder, that you know what's going on and that you can make sure that your business strategy sort of aligns to that?
Yeah, I think I touched on at the very beginning, which is like when we first started Tally, Laura and I interviewed, it was like over 1,000 people. I think people obviously were very bored at home with COVID. So we were sending out like LinkedIn messages and we'd just be like, can we have 10-minute calls? So we spoke to over 1,000 companies just to kind of get like a gauge on what they're thinking. And that actually worked out amazingly for us because then it was like a really good community of people we could then touch on again and ask for like updated results. And so we have continued always to do feedback, like customer feedback. So maybe like every 6 months, we will do like a big reach out to not just our customers, but like a wider audience within the startup scale up space to see like their thoughts on workspace. But I think for us, we obviously are really driven by technology. We have a technology platform and a marketplace which has all the different workspaces on there. And a lot of like Tally is a tech company, but essentially if you want an office space, like we have a sales team, they're very consultative. They will be on calls with you, they'll come on viewings with you, they'll help negotiate for you, they'll go through timelines like branding, design, fit out. Like we will put, it's a very hands-on process if you want a full-time office. So I think therefore we have the luxury of like being with our customers all the time, if you see what I mean. Like we spend days out on viewings with them, like finding out about like how they work, what they're looking for in offices. So I think, but de facto we're speaking to our customers every day because we have a consultative like business, but then we do make a real effort every 6 months, specifically the tech team, to go out and speak to our customers to find out like what they're thinking.
And how does that impact the product strategy and the partners that you work with and stuff?
Yeah, I think we have. like by nature, because workspace has changed so much, which I guess has been our conversation, it's like it's changed so much over the last like 5 years. We have like added a lot of products. As I say, we started more like hot desking. Now we do a lot of full-time offices, do everything in between. So really talking to them, we kind of like add products or kind of like focus on different products, whether it's like that's full-time offices or it might be event spaces, and different like timelines and different qualities of things that people want, and obviously different like locations as well. So it kind of, yeah, whatever they say will guide us.
Awesome. One, I think a subject that we've not touched on yet really is, I guess, your journey as a leader. This is your first business venture, I think.
It is, yeah, first startup.
So how have you found the sort of journey from working for somebody to working completely for your own, and then being the number one and number two person in the business? How has that journey been?
Yeah, I guess before Tally, so I was working kind of in banking, and then I did an MBA. And on my MBA, I got really involved in the startup scene because I did it at Cambridge, and they obviously have an incredible startup ecosystem, like a lot of investment there, a lot of incredible companies, a lot of like health tech, biotech come out of there. So I did a lot of consulting for different startups when I was there. We did like amazing trip to San Francisco, and I went to visit all the VCs and like all the Silicon Valley companies you were talking about. And then off the back of that, I basically went to work for a company called Soldo for 4 years. And essentially, I worked really closely as the CEO's kind of like right, left hand person, like just doing a bit of everything. It's an Italian company. So I was one of the first people who was like native English in England for them. So I'd be like spell checking and like making decks, etc. And so I did that for 4 years. And I loved that product. I was like, everyone should have this product. I was like, it's a no-brainer. And I was like so admirable of the CEO. He had already built and sold multiple companies, and the way he talked was like, when this happens, not like if this happens. If you see what I mean. So you're really on the journey with him. And so like after 4 years, like I feel like I had learned enough. And I think there's just some people who are like, they know at one point they will do a business. It's just like,
Yeah,
when will that be? And I was definitely that person. Like, those cringe stories of like you're starting little companies when you're little and you're always like
yeah, yeah,
doing stupid stuff. I had like gift wrapping businesses. I always had terrible business ideas that my friends would tease me about. So I think Laura and I, my co-founder, had talked about a lot of business ideas beforehand. So it was kind of like COVID was a perfect time when we actually had some more time. We could do like after work, we could do at the weekends. And I think like the main thing for founders is just do it, just start. And yeah, when we started Tally, we then were really lucky enough to get an Innovate UK grant. And I have such admiration for those grants because they do force you to do it. It's like you
yeah,
are given the money, but only if you deliver on your deliverables. Like you have to hire people, you have to spend it, you have to develop technology, you have like check-ins all the time. So you're kind of like accidentally on this road of building a company that you didn't really realize you were building. And the end of it, we're like, we have a company, we should probably do something with it now, if you see what I mean. So I
yeah,
think, yeah, I've always had that itch to be a founder. And then that experience at Soldo was like, okay, well, now I've got like a breadth of skills that I can actually put into practice.
yeah. So you had sort of a natural mentor that was paying you at the same time, which is like the perfect balance.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I think actually all those experiences doing consulting beforehand was really helpful as well. You see like loads of different industries. And I guess one of the learnings of startups is like, it doesn't really matter what your product is or what your service is. Like
Mm.
the fundamentals of a business is very similar in everything.
Yeah, 100%. I think working in the startup world, I always used to say to people when sort of interviewing people is that like you'll get 5 years experience in 1 year because the
Yeah.
level of expectation of you is sort of here rather than if you work for a big corporate, you're doing a set process. But if you're working for a startup, it's you're the guy, go and figure it out. And it does do wonders. And I think once you realise that nobody really has it figured out, and everyone's sort of just working out as they go along, building the plane as they fly it, that type of thing.
Yeah,
Then you
definitely.
kind of think, well, why can't I do it then? I'll just go and give it a go.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's basically just do it, isn't it? Like you're only gonna learn as you do for sure. But I've learned so much from Laura. Like Laura has a really different skill set to me. Like she's a trained accountant. She's
Mhm.
very process driven. Like I'm the dreamer and she's like the process sensible
She's
person.
reined you back in a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. That's kind of like our like relationship. And I've just learned so much from her in terms of HR, kind of operations, finance. And I think like hopefully she's learned some stuff from me the other way around. But I think that's incredible to have like a co-founder that has like opposite skill set to you, because you do have someone that you can ask bluntly about, how do I do this? Like, she's incredible at management. So in the early days of my managing like a bigger team than I had previously, I'd always go to her. And I don't think you need that in a co-founder. Like, you can find that from a community or mentors, etc. But finding someone who has like very different skill sets to you that you can kind of lean on and ask like stupid questions to is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's surrounding yourself with people, isn't it, that have got, have got that good experience. It's really like when I'm working with a guy he's a consultant who works with a business, and it's just literally just so I can ask him stupid questions.
Yeah,
Well, I've never done this before. What would you do? Like, it's so valuable. Like having that somebody to lean on. I think really helpful.
definitely. I think what's hard as um, I think specifically, what I only have experience as a female founder, in all honesty, but I think specifically as a female founder, there is like incredible support and communities. But I feel like I always say this, but I feel like one thing I really learned at the beginning of Tally is that there's loads of communities for female founders and lots of support and training. And it's like, you've won, in inverted commas, this kind of like coach or mentor, or you going on
Mm,
this kind of like program or accelerator, and all of it's kind of like soft skills, etc. And I think for me personally, it was more important to find like individuals I can reach out and ask questions to, because I found those communities or programs a little bit time consuming, if you see what I mean. Like,
yeah,
it could be a full-time job being a founder without actually running a business, if you see what I mean.
yeah,
There's so many courses and programs and events and all this kind of thing. And so like, I think the advice out there in the communities are amazing, but you really have to be quite selective of which ones are giving you skills and advice that complement you, that aren't ones that you already have. Because I think it's really easy to get wrapped up in all those kind of like soft skills, as I say like
yeah, 100%. I think a lot of those types of things, like they're very theoretical based as well. So it's like, this is the theory of how you raise money when you're building a business. And you're like, I get the theory. I want to
yeah,
know practically how to do it, and I want to speak to people that have done it and that can give me specific advice about what I'm doing.
yeah. And the
And
best
it's
thing
pretty,
someone can do is like give you their business, and you learn by doing your business. It's like, give like please work with me, and then I will learn by doing, rather than learn by theoretical advice always, I think.
yeah, 100%.
No, I don't
Well,
want to put a downer on those communities, because some of them are incredible and some of them I've learned on loads. I think it's just like a good thing to be wary that you could spend a lot of time doing that.
yeah, 100%. I think you just have to. I think you have to value your time a lot when you're an
Yeah,
entrepreneur. You have to think like, where am I going to have the most impact? I might go to this event one week because is there something specific that I'm really interested in, or I haven't spent enough time in the community or whatever. But then next week I'm not going to do that because I'm going to go and spend some time with customers or something. So yeah, it's about being purposeful, I think.
definitely. Yeah, time management is like basically the biggest thing as a founder, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
if you've nailed that, you've got it.
What's your tricks for time management then as a busy entrepreneur?
Uh, well, Laura and I are quite harsh with each other. So we'll send each other like our list of things that we're doing for the week, and we'll be really brutal to each other and say like, we can't, should or shouldn't do that.
Mm,
And yeah, I think we're really big into automation. So I'm like obsessed with Superhuman. Any kind of like automations or AI thing I can use to make my life simpler is better. Like, Superhuman, in all honesty, has been like a game changer for me. And then I think it's just like really purposefully thinking like, is there anyone else who could possibly do this task, if you see what I mean? Because really you should be just like delegating as much as you can. But
yeah.
yeah, I definitely don't have it nailed. So any advice is always welcome.
What's Superhuman? I've not heard of Superhuman.
Oh, Superhuman's amazing. It's like a program that sits on top of your email, essentially. I think it started in Silicon Valley, like some founder of another business.
Mm,
And it's just basically an interface for your email, but it just makes like email management like a lot easier. There's like loads of different shortcuts. You don't have to ever use your mouse. You can like snooze emails and come back to it. Like, AI writes emails for you, automates with your calendar. It puts things in HubSpot.
okay.
Yeah, I'd really recommend it.
So when you reply to my emails, it's not you; it's a computer that's replying.
No, I normally do. I normally reply to them, but I think any kind of tricks like that you can find in terms of like softwares,
Yeah,
like obviously definitely worth a try.
100%. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of time boxing, which
Oh
is
yeah,
not a technical thing, but I find it just keeps me really really focused. So it's
yeah,
like this hour I'm
definitely.
doing this, next hour I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But
I'm one of
yeah,
those, I don't know what kind of person you are to work, but I just love working in spaces with other people. Like, I need like background noise, I need like the TV on, I
yeah,
need to like be listening to something at the same time. And so like, I think one of the things, what we do when people join Tally is we get them to present like how I work, which is like how you work in the day, how you want to be communicated to, how you like to work with other people. And I think just doing that exercise, like to make you self-aware of where you're best, how you work best is key.
Mm.
Like my best hours are like 8 until 12 probably in the morning. And then I'm like terrible past 7 p.m. in the evening. So like just you actually being aware of like your best schedule is also really important.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think there's a lot of, especially for sort of like people in the freelancer community, I think are a little bit more able to be a bit more flexible, which I think is really interesting because there's a freelancer that I speak to fairly often. She's called Olivia Webb, and she's in the sort of copy space, and she sort of really talks quite a lot on LinkedIn about being purposeful about her time. So it's like, okay,
Mhm.
in the morning I'm not very good, so I'm going to go to the beach and take my dog for a walk and have some sort of me time, and then in the afternoon I'm going to go and do loads of deep work, and then in the evening I might do some emails or something. So it's
Yeah,
having that flexibility, I think, is really important, and I think a lot more businesses are a bit more open to that now about flexibility rather than you're in at 9, you leave at 5, and this is when your meetings are. And
definitely. I read this article a while ago that was like, you whichever hour of the day is your best hour. So for me, I'm going to say like probably like 7 to 8 a.m. is like that should be yours. Like don't give that to business, don't give that to someone
mm,
else. Like you should give that to yourself, like whatever you want to do. And like I try to make sure that that is true, that like at least an hour of the day is like completely what you want to do and what to make like the best out of it. I guess what's hard when you're scaling a business is that the flexibility goes in terms of like managing other people and being around and being like supportive, because like my leadership style is very like supportive. Like I will be here to help you at any time or break down any barriers for you.
mm.
So sometimes it can be hard as you grow a team to do that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, you're right. When you start building a team, you think, oh, it's great, they're going to help me, and I'm going to have more time. But it's the opposite. You end
Yeah.
up my role isn't to lead you; it's to help you and knock
Support.
down
Yeah,
those walls for you. Yeah, there's a very
definitely.
different concept. Yeah, what would be your tips for people that are thinking about starting a business now? Then, in terms of getting started on that entrepreneurial journey, obviously
Yeah,
not go and buy a massive office space yet.
yeah, probably don't go buy a massive office at the beginning. Yeah, it's mad how many people we speak to who like they come to us about offices and like they're like, because we are going to raise money in 6 months' time, and obviously that takes 6 months longer. And I'm just like, don't spend time doing this now. Like you can
Mm,
find a space really quickly. Like our services, you can find somewhere and move in within like a week or two if you needed to. So definitely don't do that.
mm,
But yeah, I think one we touched on before, which is kind of like just do it, if you see what I mean.
mm,
Like so many people are like, when I have that idea, when I do this, like things can pivot and change. So I think number one is like just start. And you can start doing like research, like SEO research, having like websites, fake buttons, like doing surveys, like anything in the beginning stages of a startup. I think the other one, which I guess is a bit of a no-brainer as well, is really doing some kind of like basic financial modeling on whether like
mm,
financially it's viable. And not just that, it's like with your business model, what kind of financing do you need? For example, with Tally, our first product, which was like on-demand co-working and meeting rooms, the scale that we would have had to grow in that geographically, like the market size, would have been huge, and therefore it would have definitely needed a lot of VC funding, if you
mm.
see what I mean. Then we have like ad offices, etc., and it's got like that becomes a large part of our business, and it's a different model. Essentially, is like what is the best kind of finance to support that? How big would we have to get to make it a legit business? So I just think a bit of kind of like sensible, like napkin financial
Yeah.
modeling is probably quite sensible as well. Because I think a lot of people have like incredible ideas, and they get to a point where they're like, actually, legit, this is never going to make any money.
Yeah, I mean there are still businesses that amaze me that are like 5 years into their business journey and they've never made a single penny.
Yeah.
I can't get my head around that concept, but VC seems to be happy with it. But yeah, no, I completely agree.
I
Having
think,
just some sensible maths that says we're gonna charge people this, it's going to cost us this to deliver.
yeah.
This is our profit.
And I think what's quite funny when you do offices is like you do look at companies' P&Ls a lot, because you'll have to look at them for their deposits, for their things. So you kind of get like an insight into their finances, and you obviously get an insight into their business growth and finances from the type of office space and the budgets that they have as well. And it's
Mm.
like some of these huge brands who I think of as like, wow, they've really made it. Like you look at it and you're like, wow, that's a real struggle. And there's like some really old school businesses you'd never even think of. You're like, that's so boring. How are you doing that with a few
Yeah.
people? And they're like making the multi-millions. So it's kind of like you do need to be quite, I think, I don't know, purposeful on the kind of business and lifestyle that you want to like build, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think the only thing I would probably add to that is don't don't wait for perfect to deliver something.
Yeah.
We had a value at IMP when I was there, which was start a thing and iterate it. So
Yeah.
just get it out there, and then start to build it over time. Customers will tell you when something's wrong, and then you can make it better for them.
Yeah, one of our values at Tally, we had these really cringe values, which we still have now, but we used to be like really hammer them home a lot, which was like test it, try it, make it happen. I think that was one, and like one was like see it, say it, say it, sort it, like a bit of a partner on the tube thing, but it was like,
Yeah,
like the whole thing was supposed to be like you have to try it, and then if it's not working, kind of you have to sort it out.
yeah. No, I love that. I think it's bang on. Cool. Well, thank you very much for that, Jules. I think that was really, really interesting. Lots of people to take away there. Thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Have a nice day.
Thank you.